Well, we're here.
Yeah.
Yep. We all agree we're here. It's April 29th and we're here. How many people were aware of a prediction that the world would come to an end last Monday? Only a couple hands. Yeah. Last Monday, April 23rd. And there was some publication of that around the world, but most people ignored it. The Toronto Sun ran an article last Sunday. The prediction was made by a man named David Meade. His prediction was that Planet X, a mysterious planet that's invisible, will appear just before crashing into Earth last Monday. And news sites around the world put up articles about that prediction. One being the Daily Record here in the United Kingdom. You see the lion up there by the logo. So, supposedly, Mr. Meade scoured through the Bible and uncovered clues to tell him that April 23rd, 2018 was the day. Now, this is not to be confused with his other predictions of 1, Christ returning, 2, the rapture, a concept some denominations put a lot of stock into, 3, the beginning of 7 years of wars and tribulations, or 4, the destruction of Earth by colliding with an invisible planet. So, I'm not sure if the Daily Record here is suggesting that this prediction meant that the Earth collides with an invisible planet or runs into a giant grilled cheese sandwich. I don't know, and I think they're both just as likely. Mr. Meade first predicted last September 23rd. And then he changed it to last October 15th. And then he changed it to last Monday. And this is also not to be confused with Harold Camping's multiple predictions in 2011. Camping was a Christian leader and at one time president of Family Radio, a nationwide radio station group. David Meade has been described as a Christian conspiracy theorist and as a Christian numerologist. So, why don't these predictors of end times, if they are or were Christians, go to the gospel and see what Jesus said? Jesus said, no one knows, not even the Son. That settles it right there in my book. So, let's get back to the disciples, and we'll tie this in a little bit later. So, the disciples were waiting in the upper room, as Jesus had instructed when he returned to the upper room the Sunday after Resurrection Sunday. That was when Thomas was there. And he told them, stay in Jerusalem until you have received power from on high. Now they didn't know how long they would have to wait. Jesus just told them to stay in Jerusalem and wait. And as we talked about before, waiting's one thing, but waiting when you don't know how long you're going to have to wait, that's even more agonizing. Well, during this time of waiting, they were in the upper room, doors locked, still scared from the Jewish leaders. I suggest that they were doing a lot of remembering about the last 3 years and their time with Jesus. And the last day with Him, before the day of the cross, was still very, very fresh in their minds. That Thursday night was a huge night. I mean, Jesus washing the disciples' feet, the institution of Holy Communion, Jesus foretelling Peter's denials, Judas's exit, and then the scene in the Garden of Gethsemane. The Gospel of John devotes 5 chapters to that night, just before Jesus' arrest. 5 chapters. That night, as described in the 15th chapter of John, Jesus gives the disciples a very clear command. Beginning with the 9th verse. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in His love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything that I learned from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you, so that you might go and bear fruit. Fruit that will last. And so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. This is my command. Love each other. The word of the Lord. In these instructions, in that passage, Jesus used the word command 5 times. He used the word love 9 times. This command also appears in the 13th chapter of John. And I suggest that this was an extremely important message, and Jesus wanted to be sure the disciples didn't miss it. If we unpack this passage, we see 3 main ideas. First, Jesus tells us why He's making this command. He makes this command so that Jesus' joy might be in us, and it might be complete. It's not just a command to follow because it's a rule. It's about joy. Joy. Jesus wants us to have joy and wants our joy to be complete. The Creator of the universe wants our joy to be complete. He made a special trip to deliver that message in person. How cool is that? The second idea that we see in this passage is about relationship. Jesus said, "You are my friends." In this friendship relationship, let's look at what Jesus has done. One, Jesus tells us that He initiated the relationship. Jesus said, "You did not choose me, I chose you." Before we could even know Him, He has chosen us. He sought us out. As that painting of Jesus knocking on the door over here reminds us, Jesus is always seeking us. He's seeking everyone, even those who don't know Him or currently have the door to their heart closed. He's still knocking at the door. And two, within this relationship, there's openness and truth. Don't need to show your hands, but I ask, how many of us have been in a relationship that concealed or blocked truth? Yeah. And that's wrong. That's hurtful. That's unhealthy. That type of relationship does not know joy. But Jesus tells us in here that He's been totally open. He said, "Everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you." Let's think about that. Everything Jesus learned from the Father, He made known to us. Everything. There's no concealing. There's no, sorry, you don't have security clearance for that information. No. He let us know everything. Why? We just talked about that, so that our joy may be complete. We don't have to worry that, there's something we don't know. No. And the third idea in this passage is the call to action. Why did Jesus choose us? Well, we just read, Jesus said, "I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit." What kind of fruit? What does that look like? Love each other. The Apostle Paul wrote to the church in Galatia and listed 7 fruits of the Spirit. Guess what? The first one on the list is love. And the second one is joy. Right. The Apostle Paul didn't miss Jesus' command. Formerly known as Saul of Tarsus, who hunted down, persecuted, and jailed Christians, Paul is an example of a complete reversal. And a part of his first letter to the church in Corinth is often recited at weddings every week. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. The evil one tries to tell us there's no reason for faith, there's no reason for hope, and there's no reason to love. The evil one wants us to think that people can't change, circumstances can't change, and it's all hopeless. But we saw this past week evidence that there is reason for faith, hope, and love. And no, it wasn't the appearance of an invisible planet. It was two Korean leaders coming together. Through multiple generations of leaders, North Korea and South Korea have been officially at war for 68 years. Just 53 weeks ago, North Korea was threatening to obliterate South Korea. This week, the two leaders agreed to end the war. Another example, in current times, of a complete reversal. The meeting almost turned into a love fest. Amazing. Amazing. Almost unbelievable. Except for those of us who do believe in miracles. If that relationship can turn around, any relationship can turn around. The Apostle Paul wrote, "The greatest of these is love." Maybe the Beatles were spot on with their song titled, "All You Need Is Love." The song was completed in the spring of 1967 and was part of a live worldwide broadcast in June. Our World was the first live international satellite TV broadcast. It included artists from 19 countries in different segments during the 2.5-hour broadcast. The Beatles closed out the broadcast with their first public performance of "All You Need Is Love." They were doing this from within their Abbey Road studio. Now, along with the Fab Four, in the studio for the broadcast was a 13-piece orchestra and several friends who were seated around the floor. Because that studio wasn't all that big. So they were all crammed in there pretty tight. As the broadcast was ending and the Beatles segment was fading out, the friends on the floor were singing along with the refrain. The friends included Mick Jagger, Eric Clapton, Keith Richards, Graham Nash, and several others. That must have been quite a scene. Now, if I had been asked to plan the meeting between those two Korean leaders, I think it would have been a great idea to have blaring from the loudspeakers the Beatles song, All You Need Is Love. What do you think? Let's pray. Loving Lord, thank you for loving us. Thank you for showing us how to love. Thank you for being the one true reason for faith, hope, and love, and showing us that, yes, miracles continue to happen. And all God's people said, Amen. Hymn number 364.